It's the greatest podcast in the history of the world.
It goes high up and under to full forward. McKee's taken a ripper!
He has a bounce, he crosses 50, he pins the ears back, and he drills the goal!
All the latest news and views from around the VAFA.
Here's the big man!
Big goal!
He's done it again! This bloke extracts some of the finest from outside the arc. It's a long bomb from outside the arc!
This is for the love of the game.
You can tweet that and hashtag it bloody good.
Hello and welcome to For the Love of the Game. Jason Bennett alongside Matthew Donald, Brayden May on the eve of finals for some, into finals for others. Matthew Donald, it is happening all over the place.
Yes, hello to you, Jace, Brayden, and to everyone tuning in. And it is a great time to be involved in the footy season. As you say, we're already into the finals action in some competitions, and for others, we're not too far away. And still some places at both ends of various tables to be decided. Yeah. So it is an exciting time.
Finals races, relegation races. Hey, we've got games which aren't finals but really are finals. We'll talk about those in Premier B and Premier C coming up. 2 elimination finals really in those Premier divisions as well. Brayden, we've already seen a weekend full of finals and sides that are already gone through and progressed to grand final day. So much to look at in the VAFA. That's one of the great things about it, isn't it? 30-odd sections, and there's just action all over the place.
Oh, it's amazing what happens at this time of year, and I think my favourite part that will unfold over the next 5 weeks is the names that we haven't focused on throughout this season. We touch on the big names. It's the lesser likes. The guy that bobs up out of the reserve, good form, and then kicks 3 in the grand final, wins a medal, and it tells his tale for the rest of his life. They're the ones I enjoy most at this time of year.
We'll run you through everything that's happened in finals across the weekend. Look forward to the finals coming up this weekend and, of course, in all the Premier divisions that are still going. We'll talk about the final round of action. As we mentioned, things like Premier B men's, Premier C men's still hanging in the balance. We'll have a couple of elimination final games. Going to have special guests featuring from both those games. That's all coming up. We are going to start with William Buck Premier men's. And the relegation race, well, half of that has now been decided, but 3 clubs will still face a very anxious final day this weekend. The minor premiership also still hangs in the balance as we take a look back at round 17. And it was heartbreak, gentlemen, for St Bernard's. The Snow Dogs run over late by Old Brighton at the Snake Pit, which confirms their relegation back to Premier B in 2027. The Dogs needed to win to keep their survival hopes alive. Things looked ominous early. The Tunners, who were sharper with ball in hand, seized control. They kicked the opening 4 goals of the game before the hosts finally got on the board through Luke Delizio. 23 minutes in, settled into the game. He kicked another one 5 minutes into the second term, got it back to 10 points. They then started to find their groove, the Snow Dogs, and were up and about in front of a pretty healthy crowd at the Snake Pit. They racked up 18 inside 50s to 11 in that second term. And really, Matty, gave the reigning champs a taste of their own medicine. They kicked 4 goals from turnover, 6 goals to 2, and they led by 8 points at half time. And at this stage, we're looking at the around the grounds going, hang on.
Yes, no, we were out at, Hugo and I were out at Keysborough, but we had a very close eye on this match because we felt that this was going to set things up quite nicely for the final day of the season. And yeah, when the Snow Dogs had the lead at half time, we really started to believe that we were going to get an incredible finish to the season.
And it's sort of indicative of the Snow Dogs season, Brayden. When they do play good footy in patches, they can be irresistible.
They've been very good to watch and they're really exciting. And it's just one of those things, I think maybe with the depth, their bottom 6 is where they fall away, and just that ability to keep that momentum going for an extra 10, 15 minutes and then take the game away from opponents. So
they led by 8 points at half-time. Both teams in the third term struggled to hit targets and chain possessions together, although the Snow Dogs, again, more effective at punishing turnovers. They kicked 3 goals to 4 behinds off opposition errors as the home faithful really started to believe in another upset. They kicked 3 unanswered goals. So in those middle 2 quarters, they kicked 9 goals to 2. 9-3 to 2-8, the Snow Dogs, and headed to the last change 22 points in front. And the question then, of course, was could they hang on in the final term? Well, as is so often the case, it turned out to be an Old Brighton masterclass that last quarter, Matty. They rediscovered their A game. They were dominant out of the middle. They took territory, repeatedly hit their forward targets, set up behind the ball, prevented St Bernard's escaping the defensive half. Goals to Seeger, and then Hope cut it back to 8 points. Sam Flockhart added another 13 minutes in to level the scores. They just peppered their forward 50, 26 inside 50s to 8 in the last quarter. It was all one-way traffic.
Yeah, they really showed their class in that final term. Old Brighton, who were really put to the sword by the Snow Dogs. But this is what good teams do when they're challenged, whether it's at home or on the road. They find a way of getting the job done. And that's why they've been such a good side for so long, and why they will challenge for top honours again this year, the Tunners.
So devastation for the Snow Dogs. They battled their hearts out. They couldn't hold back the tide in the last term. They conceded 4-8 to no score to fall by 10 points and seal their fate. So after 3 years in the top flight, the undefeated 2023 Premier B champions will return to the second tier in 2027. They've gone 5-13, 7-10-1, and 4-13 with 1 game still to play in 2026. So all up, 16, 36 and 1 in the top flight over the last 3 seasons. But Brayden, that doesn't really tell the true story of their competitiveness. They've lost 5 games by 10 points or less this season and 7 in total across the 3 campaigns. So even if they won 2 of their 5 this year by 10 points or less, they'd be sitting in 7th spot right now.
Footy is a funny game, man. Unfortunately, that's what happens. I guess at the end of the day, like, it comes down to fine margins. Like, we're talking off air about last year and where it all ended up in the relegation battle. At the end of the day, if you don't take your chances and don't put it on the scoreboard, you end up in St Bernard's position, unfortunately. But I think we can go ahead early and say they're going to be right in the mix to bounce back, to yo-yo straight back up. They'll be right in the Prem B flag mix next year.
Well, you'd have to think so. They're undefeated in 2023, won the flag, and they're much better equipped now with those extra couple of years of experience, or 3 years of experience in the top flight, and they continue to build depth. So, yeah, they're going to be quite a formidable opponent in Premier B in 2027. And barring a final round disaster for Scob, the Tunners will qualify 4th. They'll face St Kevin's in a cutthroat first semi-final. They can only finish 3rd or 4th, so either way, it's going to be a first semi-final against St Kevin's. Next week, they'll complete their tune-up for September with a testing challenge, probably the challenge you want, the Plucky Fields at Glen Huntly Park. While the Snow Dogs can play spoiler, they can still affect the relegation race because they can potentially drag Old Trinity back down to Premier B with them if they beat Old Trinity and Old Haileybury get up. So disappointment in the end for Steve Alessio and St Bernard's. He's been so positive all year. Matty, what did he make of his side's gallant performance?
Yeah, well, he said again it was the start that really put them on the back foot, and you mentioned it in the report there, Jace, that they just got off to such a good start, the Tunners, and it meant St Bernard's had a lot of work to do early. They did a really good job at working their way back into the contest, which you mentioned, those middle quarters, and really built on it in the 3rd term. But he just acknowledged that Old Brighton are a quality outfit. They managed to get on top in the centre once again and were dominant with the territory in that final term. As he said, 26 entries and didn't allow the Snow Dogs to score at all. Couldn't fault the endeavour of the playing group, though, Steve Alessio. They've overcome a lot of challenges throughout the course of the year, and they've shown great resilience to take it to this far in the campaign. We thought their relegation was going to be confirmed a lot earlier than what it was. So they've done really well to get to this point. But he's looking forward to the last game against Old Trinity, and he expects that they'll play with the same intensity that they've done all season.
From a Brighton perspective, it's just about the hardest place in the VAFA to win, isn't it? Away, the Snake Pit. So any win down there, a fighting win, and probably the sort of tune-up that Brighton need on the eve of the finals.
Yeah, and he took the words right out of Marcel Bruin's mouth, that it's the toughest road trips in the VAFA, out the Snake Pit. He was pleased with the start, that with the momentum that we're able to get, but then he was a bit, they said, he described their performance as haphazard in the 2nd and 3rd terms. It allowed the Snow Dogs to sort of respond, but he said there was a big lift from his group, in particular the mids, and some names he pointed out were Sam Linder, Luca McNabb, Tom Burnell, Felix Flockhart lifted in the second half, and Ide Goodger on the wing as well.
Sam Linder is in unbelievable form coming into the finals. He had another 37 disposals, 15 contested, 7 marks, 8 rebounds and 7 inside 50. So in the last 3 weeks, he's had 38, 36 and 37.
Yeah, he's had some really good form. And I've caught a couple of Old Brighton games just in the last month, and he's someone who's been particularly notable at finding plenty of the football. Yeah,
he's having a huge influence, the sort of player they're going to need for their premiership defence come September. Well, University Blacks, they successfully secured their place in Premier Men's rather. Oh, Blacks fans just fell over. In Premier Men's next season, the Blacks will stay up. A hard-fought 15-point win over Old Scotch at Camberwell Sports Ground. The Blacks struck first. They kicked one of the quickest goals I reckon we've seen in the VAFA this season. Joel Ernest pounced on a spillage, slotted a magnificent goal from deep in the right forward pocket just 21 seconds into the game. Straight down out of the centre bounce, into the pocket. Ernest on the run from the boundary, slotted it. But Old Scotch recovered. They got their intercept game going. They controlled territory, got reward for their dominance. They kicked 4 goals in 10 minutes during time on in the opening term. Got out to a 23-point lead at quarter time. But the Blacks didn't panic. They stabilised the situation early in the second term. Before the Cards kicked again, they kicked 3 goals in 3 minutes. Got out to a 6-goal lead at the 15-minute mark, which grew as large as 38 at the 21-minute mark of the second term. And the Blacks did look to be in trouble. However, they responded again. 2 goals in 2 minutes. They were back in the game. And then Leon Allows front and centre crumb at the 32-minute mark, gave them 3 in a row. The margin was half to 18 points. And then they completely dominated the inside game in the third term. 20 clearances to 6 in 1 quarter the way of the Blacks. They just dominated in there. They kept peppering away. They didn't take full toll, it must be said. The 2 teams went goal for goal late in the term. Scotch still by 7 points at the last change. Scotch then evened up the contest on the inside in the last term, but their kick efficiency let them down, just 44%. They coughed up possession and allowed the Blacks to just continually get repeat entries inside 50. Seb McNamara levelled the score 7 minutes in. Then 16 minutes with no goal from either team. The game breaker 23-minute mark, Jack Drummond, who'd been great all day, bobbed up again, marked on the lead, slotted the goal, and then Lachie Knight into an open goal. And the Blacks were officially safe in the top flight for 2027 with a fighting come from behind 15-point win. They actually leapfrogged the Cardinals. They take 5th spot on the ladder as the best of the rest with one round still to play. And given, Matty, they've repeatedly challenged the top teams this season, it's probably a well-deserved position. I mean, they have been the one team that consistently has made life difficult for those top 4 teams.
Yeah, they really have been the quiet achievers throughout the season. Obviously, a lot of our focus has been on the big 4 in 2026, but the Uni Blacks have actually proved a bit of a thorn in the side of most. Certainly, if they don't get the win, they make opposition teams earn their 4 points.
Dale Bauer doesn't say a lot after games, but I think in his terms, in relative terms, this is effusive praise from Dale. He was glowing.
Yes, well, it's certainly not about the early exchanges of the game. He said that Old Scotch started really well, and they were a step off with their forward pressure early on with the Blacks and coughed up the ball a bit too often. 38 points down, 20 minutes into the second term they were, and they really responded after that. The 3 goals they got before half-time, he said they got on top in most areas of the game in that second half, pulled back the lead, and then they created a great run of momentum heading into that final term. Didn't let the Cardinals get a score at all. So it was a phenomenal performance at both ends of the ground. Heaped praise on Sam Conway. Described the performance as amazing, which by Dale Bauer standards is probably, well, I don't think I've ever heard him give a compliment like that before.
38 disposals for Sam Conway, the ruck. 67 hit-outs, 15 clearances. And in the last quarter alone, he had 13 touches, 16 hit-outs and 5 clearances. This Team of the Year, I'm very interested to see your votes later in the year for Team of the Year and who might be in the ruck categories. Obviously, Billy Coates has had a great year. Sam Conway's had an incredible year. Felix Flockhart's had some good form as well. There's going to be a few to choose from, and the question's going to be for you, gentlemen. Are you carrying one on the bench or are you pushing one forward into a pocket? It's going to be an interesting challenge.
We're going to have the tallest midfield ever.
Yes,
one thing on Conway, I reckon he's a smoky for the Woodrow.
Okay.
It's just, I've noticed, not just across amateur football, but all local football competitions, because the umpires are right there under the big fellas. He came with a name. He's got the reputation. As you touched on, the clearances. Contested ball winners seem to get noted.
And they're very even, the Blacks, too. That's the other thing. They are a very even side, and that's been one of their strengths this year. So they won't have a lot of guys hogging a lot of votes. It should be reasonably even across the board. So, yeah, maybe Sam Conway could be value. He could be a smoky.
Be remiss of us with Senchi not here not to mention Will Clark as well.
Will Clark, throw him in the mix, of course. He'll be in the Team of the Year mix also. Speaking of Old Scotch, what did Mark Nat make of this performance?
Described it as almost a 2-sided game. Really good footy for the first 50 minutes. They were able to neutralise well at stoppage, and the kicking efficiency was positive. And then it went poor, as you touched on, Jay. 44%. That's shocking numbers.
Particularly for them, It's bad for anyone, but let alone Scotch, who are generally so precise at that outside, keepings off game.
And especially with the way Premier Men's footy's been played this season, if you turn the ball over, you are going to get punished, because modern footy, you score from turnover as well. He gave a shout out to Quinn Spencer and Jack Brown, who stood tall in the background, and Caleb Nankero, who returned from a long injury layoff and took an absolute hanger down in the rounds on social. So Senchi would have been all over that one.
He was.
But he just said a major focus over the summer is going to be on kicking, the basics, one of the most underrated elements of football, if you ask me.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. The Blacks have a chance to directly shape relegation. They host the Bloods this week in a must-win game for Haileybury. And the Cardinals would love nothing more than to disrupt Zab's finals preparations when they clash at Toorak Park. St Kevin's return to the winners list. They ensured that Old Trinity will have an anxious final round after they led the Tees virtually all day at Daly Oval. Highly contested yet free scoring opening term. Both teams plenty of pressure around the ball, and despite Old Trinity's hard tackling, it was Scob a little bit better at getting it from inside to outside. 15 to 9 inside 50s the result. But the Tees did look dangerous when they got it forward. They kicked 3 goals from limited opportunities, and that man, Dom Payman, accounted for a couple of them. Scob headed to the first change with a 9-point lead. Payman again added a third, 6 minutes into the second term. And the two teams exchanged goals. Another even quarter of football, 3 goals apiece. St Kevin's by 12 points at the half. They then doubled that advantage quickly with goals to Kajitsky and Doug Kerr inside the first 3 minutes of the third term. Trinity then challenged Scob around the contest, actually got the territory battle going their way in the third term. However, it was Scob this time capitalising on the counter. Bank and Kerr added further majors approaching time on, and suddenly it was out to 36 points just like that. Dom Payman stepped up again. He marked at the top of the goal square, was then held in a contest shortly after. So his back-to-back goals made it 24 points, and then Charlie Comer got a 50-metre penalty. He kicked another one 30 minutes in, and suddenly it was only 19 points at the last change. But as we've seen repeatedly this year, the top teams have just got that extra gear that they find, and St Kevin's managed to steady and put the result beyond doubt. In the end, won it by 31 points, consolidating their place in third spot. They're 1 game plus 7% clear of Old Brighton. Tom Jock, one of your favourites, Matty, welcome return on the eve of the finals. Slotted seamlessly back, was best of field, 23 disposals, 6 marks and 5 clearances. And that's a performance that certainly would have pleased Anthony Lynch.
Yeah, always good to have the captain back in the side. And he did note that Old Trinity, though, were much improved compared to how they fared when the two teams clashed earlier in the season, and praised their total commitment on the day. There was a bit to work with on both counts there for Anthony Lynch. There were some patches of the game that he thought St Kevin's did really, really well in and was really happy with, but then there were some other parts of the game that they've got to tidy up heading into finals. They brought back 6 players into this team, so we mentioned not alongside Tom Jock.
I think they've still got 3 or 4 to come.
Yeah, so there's a lot of incomings for St Kevin's in the next couple of weeks. So that might have explained why they looked a little disjointed at times, trying to filter a quarter of your team back in at once. Hopefully now over the next week or so they can build a little bit of synergy heading into finals.
Yeah. So from a Trinity perspective, Brayden, they head into the final round with their destiny in their own hands. If they defeat Wooden Spooners St Bernard's at the Snake Pit, they'll be safe in Premier Men's next season. But if they drop that game, we've spoken about how tricky it is to go down to the Snake Pit, particularly St Bernard's, they would love nothing more than to drag Trinity down to Premier B with them as well. They'll need to rely on Haileybury losing or Caulfield losing by so much that they drop about 5% and slip behind the Tees on 22 points. From Donald McDonald's perspective, how's he assessed that performance and this final weekend coming up?
Very well, actually. One of the more detailed answers I think we've got all year here, Jace, in your report. He was pleased with the performance and the effort after an indifferent performance a week before. He just said St Kevin's were more controlled with the ball in their hand, and it just goes back to that point. The top sides having that extra level to go to. Shout outs to guys including Don Payman, Christos Manosakis, Hugo McGlashan and Lewis Davidson. Spoke up a lot of the young players who have stood up with senior football. We touched on in pre-season sort of previews that they lost so much experience. Your Hugh Beasley's guys that took them to the promised land last year. But he said what's really exciting, there's so much to play for to go this weekend. He paid tribute to St Bernard's and said they've been rock solid, whereas we had a terrific patch earlier on, but once we lost some key players, it really impacted our ability to win more games. He just said it's a great challenge. It's been a great adventure for the season.
Yeah, it's one of the great things about relegation football, isn't it? It's one of the great things about this system, that there's so much to play for St Bernard's and for Trinity. So they don't just sort of roll into the final round as going, oh, well, whatever, season's over. For both these teams, St Bernard's would love nothing more than to win and beat Trinity and have an impact on that relegation race. And obviously for Trinity, they're fighting for survival.
Yes, they are, and it is one of the great things about the VAFA and the way that it is set up, that there is something for everyone for as long as possible. We'll just mention, though, with the permutations, a draw for Old Trinity might not necessarily be enough either, because the percentage between them and Old Haileybury is quite small.
Yeah.
If Old Haileybury win by enough, they'll match them on points and leapfrog them on percentage. So nothing but a win will guarantee the T's safety, a draw, and they're still relying on what happens with the Old Haileybury game.
It's going to be a very nervous afternoon on the VAFA app, isn't it? Between at least 3 teams that are all sort of having a very close eye at what's going on elsewhere. University Blues bounced back from last week's shock loss at the Snake Pit. They took care of business against Caulfield at Melbourne University. The field started brightly, as they often do. They kicked 4 of the first 5 goals. They led by 18 points midway through the opening term before the Blues responded with the last 2 goals of the quarter, got back within a kick at quarter time. It was in the skies in the second term. However, the league leaders started to exert an influence. Caulfield have been very good at ground level. Like their contested game was excellent, but in the air, 10 contested marks to 2 in that second term for Uni Blues, and 7 inset marks to 1 as the fields repeatedly turned it over between the arcs. And in the absence of suspended leading goal kicker James Stewart, Ben Townsend and Sam Grimley stepped up. They propelled the Blues to a 14-point lead. Flynn Ellis kicked his first goal at the top level to reduce it to 9 points in a spirited contest, then popped up with a toe poke on the goal line for his second goal early in the third term. And when Will Vesely took a fantastic mark, just drifted in, got smashed by the pack, was a wonderful contested grab, slotted it from the angle in the pocket, and the Fields are actually back in the lead with 10 minutes gone in the third term. But as we keep saying about the top teams, they just find a way to respond, and back-to-back goals, including one to the 19-year-old debutant Teddy Bain, swooped on a front and centre crumb, put the league leaders 2 goals up once again. Ben Townsend in another one, and then Cam O'Shea kicked his first for the season, and suddenly, just like that, the Blues had cracked the game open. They led by 27 points at three-quarter time, and their ability to hammer home their advantage when they're in control has been a real feature of this team in 2026. When they get on top, they just go for broke, and they did it again in the last quarter, kicked 3 goals in 4.5 minutes and just put the contest to bed. The Fields kept fighting. They kicked 3 of the next 4 goals, but in the end, it was the Blues ultimately by 42 points. Their 14th win of the season, and they're 3.28% ahead of Zabs in the race for the minor premiership. So another good performance from Uni Blues. And again, they don't miss a beat. They lose James Stewart out of their side, and those other talents up forward just step up and cover.
Yeah, there's 5 holes on the sinking ship, and you've only got 4 limbs to cover them with. That's the analogy I like to use for Uni Blues. They've just got so many attacking options up forward that it's hard to see any defence in the competition being able to keep all of them under wraps. And it's one of the hallmarks of their game, and it's why they're one of the teams to beat this year.
From a Matt Smith perspective, his side bouncing back from the loss and doing it well. They were challenged, and again, it was probably a great scenario for them. They're challenged, they find themselves down in the third quarter in a game that everyone's expecting them to roll in and win, but this week they found a way to just put the foot down, right the ship, and go on and score a really good victory.
Yeah, they've probably learned a lot in the last couple of weeks with the game against Snow Dogs the week prior, and now this one against Caulfield. And Matt Smith acknowledged that the field's pressure was really good early on, and they had their work cut out for them at half time, but after the main break, their contest improved a lot. They were able to start moving the ball better and controlling territory a bit more. Inaccuracy was something that was costly again. What was it, 16 goals, 17 for them, so they left a lot on the table. But still, to be able to generate 30 attempts at goal is a very pleasing thing. It's the generating the opportunities is not the issue. And also really pleased, as you mentioned, Jace, they were able to blood another couple of debutants late in the season, which is a good thing for the club.
Brayden, the Fields remain in the same delicate position they were prior to the weekend. They're half a game clear of the drop zone. They've got the opportunity to guarantee their own safety if they can roll the reigning premiers, Old Brighton, at home in the final round. If not, they're relying on Old Haileybury losing to Old Trinity. Old Haileybury or Old Trinity losing. One of them will have to definitely lose to make sure Caulfield stay alive. And the margin between the T's and the Fields would then come into play because they're on the same points at 22 points. So percentage between them would become important. They're 4.33% ahead of Trinity at the moment, but that can certainly evaporate in the craziness of the last day of the season. So it'll be a nervous afternoon for the Fields, the T's and the Bloods this Saturday. What did Paul Satterley make of Caulfield's performance?
2 of his comments that really stood out to me and almost go hand in hand. He said the Blues were far more effective when going inside 50, but his side had to work on their connection exiting D50. So that ability for the Blues to keep the ball in their forward half, dominate territory. And as we know, if they get the ball forward, they are going to score. But he said that the key thing, they're going to welcome back a few players. Didn't allude to any names this weekend. So it'll be interesting to see who does come in because that could make a world of difference.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. They've been bouncing plays between their 19s. We've been talking about it a lot lately between their 19s and their seniors. But in this situation now, you're going for broke. You're just playing your best players, whether they're 19s players or senior players. You've got to win this week to make sure you stay up.
Yeah, I think that's the key, and they've managed it quite well after what was looking like a pretty tricky start to the season. I think they were 1-4 after their opening 5 games, so they've done really well to get themselves in a position where their destiny is in their own hands. But yeah, I think the seniors have got to be as stacked as you can possibly get this weekend.
So the losses to Old Trinity and to Caulfield opened the door for Old Haileybury to jump out of the drop zone, but they couldn't find a way past Old Zabs at Haileybury College. Maddie and Hugo were at this game. The Blood started strongly again, Maddie. They won the inside 50s in the first quarter, 18-10, but just couldn't convert their forward entries as efficiently as Zabs, who kicked 4 goals to 3 and led by 6 points at the end of the first quarter. But it certainly wasn't an endeavour issue for the Bloods. They got plenty of footy.
Yeah, definitely. And it's sort of reflected there in the stats. Territorially speaking, the Bloods were really dominant that opening term. The game was played almost exclusively in their half. They got repeat entries, and Zabs were sort of relying on slingshot, counter-attacking football to get their goals. And with the class that they've got, they were able to do that quite effectively. But no, the Bloods certainly gave them plenty to think about in that opening term. Even though the Zabs were up by a goal at quarter time, it was a very encouraging start from them.
And then the Zabs early in the second quarter managed to get on top. They had the first 8 scores of the quarter. They shaded Old Haileybury on the contest. They got it out into open space. They took 34 uncontested marks to 11 in that second term, and then were able to intercept the Bloods when it came back the other way. The result was a 6-goal-to-2 quarter. Zabs got away to 37 points at halftime, just like that. And Tex Wanganeen had 4 goals on the board by halftime.
He hadn't kicked a goal all season coming into the game at the weekend, and yeah, managed 4 in the first half. He was very good up forward, but truth be told, all the Zabs players in that second term were outstanding. It's a cricket ground really that we were playing on. It's as wide as it is long, and when you got some of the runners like Wanganeen and Campbell Lane and the midfield were absolutely outstanding. Stavru and Fisher and Hanson and Spralia. They managed to make the most of the vast spaces out at the college, and and they were able to lock the game inside their forward half and start to really dominate.
It was the potential to get ugly. It was 37 points at halftime, but credit to Old Haileybury. They kicked the first 2 goals of the second half, both to Cody Goonerwardener, who had an impressive season. He's had a great year. He's kicked 19 goals in his 13 games, including 6 lots of 2.
Yeah, and given they're a side that's really struggled to find routes to goal and have been stuck in the bottom trenches of the ladder for most of the season, it's been a good campaign from Goonerwardener, and yeah, he was very good up forward. He provided a real target for the Bloods on Saturday. They
kicked a couple of goals late, Old Haileybury, just to snuff out any hope of an Old Haileybury comeback. Old Zabs kicked a couple of late goals, and they snuffed that out before it could gather any steam. They were 38 points up at the last change, and the final result never in doubt. They won it by 54 points. Wanganeen finished with 5, yet another X factor for Dan Donati come September. And debutant Jake Smith for the Bloods, very accomplished premiership player for Werribee in the VFL. He made his Old Haileybury debut. He returns from injury. He's trying to get fit for the Bees VFL campaign over the next couple of weeks. So he played a couple of under-19s games at Willie CYMS on his way up through the ranks in 2023, and he just slotted seamlessly in at Premier Men's level. 29 disposals, 5 tackles, 6 clearances, 5 rebound 50s, 5 inside 50s. That's a fair debut.
I reckon he had about 10 of them in the opening term. It was no surprise that when Old Haileybury were at their best, when Jake Smith was controlling proceedings, he was very good early, set the tone early. He faded a little bit in the game thereafter.
Yeah, hasn't played much footy for a while.
Yeah, but no, to start with, he was absolutely everywhere.
Old Haileybury into the final round, half a game from safety. To survive, as we mentioned, they need to defeat Uni Blacks at Melbourne Uni and hope that one of Caulfield, who play Brighton, or Trinity, that play St Bernard's, stumble at the last hurdle. If one of those teams lose and Haileybury win, they jump up out of the drop zone. So from a Haileybury, a Bloods perspective, what was the word from inside their camp?
Well, Guy Martin's had to reflect on the last 3 weeks. No, it's been a tough stretch.
Yeah.
Scott, Brighton and Zabs, not the sort of teams you want to be facing when you're in a relegation battle. Gearing up for finals, and they're pretty close to full strength, particularly the Zabs. The midfield's very strong, and their class and experience showed on the weekend as a result. There were patches and quarters where they were really happy with how they played. Like the first quarter in particular, I thought they were really good, and they challenged early in the third as well. But against teams like Old Zaverian, you've got to be at it for 4 quarters. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in an awful lot of trouble. And the Zabs are just able to make them punish at key moments right throughout the match.
So Haileybury can finish anywhere from 7th to 10th, remembering that 9th and 10th is relegation, but anywhere from 7th to 10th still on the table coming into this final round. Zabs, they will finish 1st or 2nd. Either way, it's going to be a second semi-final versus Uni Blues coming up in a couple of weeks. Brayden, what did Dan Donati have to say after this performance?
Yeah, played a nice straight bat on the front foot defence here, Dan Donati. I really enjoyed heading out to the college to play Old Haileybury. Ground was in incredible condition, and it was a nice motivating factor for the boys heading into this one. Says it wasn't the prettiest of games, but said Old Haileybury, one of those sides always difficult to get a read on, to get by. Managed a solid halftime lead, and they just managed the game pretty well. What I took away from it mostly, though, was no injuries and minutes into guys that they were keen on, which is just a scary prospect. Like you touched on Wanganeen, like VFL seasons are starting to come to an end, and this is going to come into play for a lot of sides in Prem A and Prem B. It's scary what might be added to the talent pool.
Well, you just mentioned that Alex Trigar, Sam Ralph, both getting through in the reserves, who won by 120 points. We saw that. So if anyone's underperforming in the seniors, there'll be someone ready to take their spot in the reserves.
And you can say the same for Sculp. They've got players coming back. Brighton are getting better by the week as well after they've had so many out. It's probably Uni Blues that have been so solid all year. They haven't had mass exodus and then mass return. They've just been a really good, steady, solid combination all year, which will hold them in good stead as well.
Tough to get a read on. I mean, if we are going to do power rankings, who's actually leading the top of the pops at the moment, because there are so many unknowns in terms of players likely to come back.
We won't even bother. At least we know what the ultimate power rankings. We know what the top 4 are now, right? They're all locked in. That cannot change. And the 2 finals won't change either. The first semi-final, the cutthroat game, will be St Kevin's versus Old Brighton, or Brighton versus St Kevin's. Either way, it doesn't make any difference. And same goes for the second semi. It'll be Blues versus Zabs, or Zabs versus Blues, just purely the prestige of finishing on top of the ladder, but the reward is exactly the same. Win that and you're straight through to grand final day. And importantly, avoiding what's going to be, no matter what, an extremely difficult prelim final for whoever loses that second semi.
I still remember last year's prelim and how bruising it was for both teams. As exciting a game as it was
the classic Zabs Scotch game, wasn't it? Angus Jones bobbed up and kicked the his fifth goal with the last kick of the game to win it for Scotch.
And that's what Brayden was saying earlier. The players at this time of year just crop up out of nowhere. And last year it was Angus Jones. I wonder who it will be in 2026.
Yeah, so much to look forward to. That's all ahead. That is William Buck Premier Men's for this week. Final round coming up this weekend. We'll go through all the games and tips a little bit later in the show. Next up, we'll talk Premier B Men's. That's next on For the Love of the Game.
Footy finals are almost here, and there's no better way to kick them off than at the 2026 William Buck VAFA Finals Luncheon. Join MC Nat Edwards, AFL legends and Brownlow medalists James Hurd and Jimmy Bartel, plus Jason Bennett and the VAFA media team for a live For the Love of the Game finals preview. Friday, September 4th at the RACV City Club. Enjoy a premium 2-course lunch, beverage package and an unforgettable afternoon of football stories and finals insights. Book your tickets now at vafa.com.au. Don't miss out on one of the biggest events on the VAFA calendar.
This is For the Love of the Game, and this is for Premier B Men's. And haven't we loved that all season long? It is going to go all the way to the wire as we knew it would. We've got ourselves an elimination final coming in the final round. Win and you're in. More on that shortly. Let's start with DYLAN and Ajax.
Yeah, we'll go there. DYLAN have been the second side to book their place in this year's final series in Premier B Men's, and they've all but locked away the double chance as a result. With an impressive 36-point win away to Ajax on Saturday. Really impressive this from DYLAN. They led by just 3 points early in the final term, so it was a pretty even game for the first 3 quarters, but then DYLAN kicked the last 5 goals of the game to pull away from the Jaggers. They won 13-13, 91 to 8-7, 55. It pushes DYLAN out to outright second. They are a game and significant percentage ahead of the chasing pack. They've all but secured the double chance, which means that they will play against Collegians in the second semi-final, the winner to progress right through to the Premier B Men's Grand Final.
And interestingly enough, when all has been said and done, it is the 2 teams that came down from Premier Men's that will finish in the top 2 spots in Premier B.
It just goes to show how big that gap is sometimes, and it can be year to year. Like, it just obviously depends on who picks up who loses who. But it's a great result for DYLAN from the fact they didn't win a game last year, and it can be hard to remember how to win. As silly as it may sound, like early in the season, you have those close games and you're getting those positions and think, we threw these away last year. So it's a great result for them. And look, I've seen this many times before. I would be shocked if we're here in a couple of weeks and say DYLAN have beaten Collegians in the first final.
Yeah, well, it could happen, and when we've seen that sort of thing before. For the Jackers, their finals hopes are still not over. They've fallen to 6th place. They're a game outside the top 4. They need a couple of results to go their way. First things first, though, they've got to win this weekend.
Yep.
Just one small problem with that. It's just the minor task of beating Collegians, which no one else has been able to do this season. So Lachie Buzzard's men have got it.
Tell you what, if they can beat Collegians, they deserve to play finals.
Yes, no, that's absolutely
So they have to
true.
beat Collegians, and then Bowie and Camberwell, that's the elimination final game. They're the 2 teams immediately above them. Looking at the equation, they need Beaumaris to win that game because that gets them to 36 points. Jackers will be on 36 as well, and the gap in percentage is only 3%. If Old Camberwell obviously win this week, it doesn't matter what the Jackers do, they can't make it. So they'll be barracking for Beaumaris.
Yep.
And then they have to beat Collegians by enough to make up that 3.5% gap that they currently trail Beaumaris on.
They can also overtake Old Melburnians if the OMs do
that's true.
lose.
Yeah, that's true. And in fact, their percentage is even worse.
Yeah, so the 2 things, and we'll sort of get to the latter in a moment, but the 2 things that the sides outside the 4 have at the moment is they've got a superior percentage. So if they end up in a tie-break situation on points, they'll have both the OMs and the Wellers covered. We'll get to the permutations of that a little later on.
Just speak about Bowie.
Yes, let's talk about Beaumaris because they managed to keep their finals hopes alive with a hard-fought 8-point win against Old Kerry. One of the informed teams of Prem B. They've come home with a wet sail, but they managed to get the job done at home at Trevor Barker Beach Oval. They'd kicked just 5 goals to 3/4 time, had the Sharks, and they were trailing at the final break. Well, they piled on 6 majors in the final term to win by literally 8 points. 11-19, 85 to 11-11, 77 over the Panthers. It moves the Sharks up to 5th spot on the ladder, leaves their destiny in their own hands. If they defeat Old Camberwell this weekend, they are playing finals. It is a win-and-you're-in type scenario for them. The Panthers, well, they're out of the running for finals now. Mathematically, they were still a chance, but they're 2 games behind with 1 to play now.
It's been a strange old year for Carey, hasn't it? They've played in patches, win 2, loss, win, loss, lose 3, win a couple more. Like they just it's been a real stop-start. They've just when you're thinking, oh, they're done, and they pull off a great win, and then you're thinking, well, they might be back, and then they lose a game you thought they might. It's It's been a strange kind of season.
Yeah, not just doing that, but who they're doing it against. Like a couple of weeks ago, they might have been just above the relegation zone up against Old Melburnians who were flying high. They came out and belted them.
Yeah.
And no one
beat
expected
Melburnians,
that.
beat Old Geelong, and you're thinking, okay, they're making a late surge again, and now Beaumaris have
fallen
just
to Beaumaris.
Yep.
Yeah.
As you say, only by 8 points. So Trevor Barker beat JOEL. You mentioned Williamstown, Willie, fighting desperately to try and keep their season alive. They are still alive, but they really would. I think last week you said miracles and maths.
Yes, that's the and that's still the case. And this was a bit of a miracle in itself to be able to get the win over Old Ivanhoe. A goal on the side from Nathan Malcorn gave the CYs a 3-point win at home at the weekend. He marked the ball on the wing with just seconds to go. I'm not sure if you've watched this back. He's tried to launch the ball back inside 50 as quickly as he can. Fortunately, there were several Hoas defenders that had encroached in the protected zone before the umpire had called play on. 50-metre penalty was awarded, brought Malcorn within range, and he sets sail for home from about 30 metres out. The siren is sounded as the ball is travelling through. Right through the centre, goal for Malcorn, win for Williamstown. They keep their season alive, technically speaking. A 3-point win in the end there for the CYs.
So what is the equation for the CYs?
Well, first things first, they've got to beat Old Melburnians, and Old Geelong have to lose. That's the starting point. The combined margin of those two results, I think, needs to work out to about 330-something points.
So you're saying there's a chance
there's a possibility that it could happen, but I think, like I said last week, even by Prem B standards, that'd be insane. But technically, they're not done yet.
And if they win, they'll go down with 7 wins for the year.
Yep.
Like, that's rare. I think we were talking about this last year, saying that when Collegians went down with 6.5, that was very rare. If Williamstown CYMS go down with 7 wins, that's very unusual in the VAFA. Like that, you're pretty stiff.
It's very unlucky, I think would almost be the best way to put it. So even 6 wins like that, that's not a bad season.
No.
To win a third of your games through a year, and they've had some massive upsets when you look at the end of the ladder and things like that. So again, it'll be great. Look, it probably looks like they are going down to Prem C, but they're a club that has a great production line. They've got a great 19s program. Hopefully they bounce back up quickly. But if I can just quickly touch on the elimination game before we get to our guest.
We've still got one more game to go, you realise?
Oh, yes.
You're just overlooking Collegians.
The
disrespect is unbelievable.
I do apologise.
There was a bombshell on the weekend. Collegians won.
Yeah, no one's going to believe this. Collegians winning against Old Melburnians, and their percentage is already a little dire, Old Melburnians, and it certainly didn't improve off the back of this. A 102-point win. The Lions, 20 goals, 13, 133 to 4-7-31. They were never troubled, Collegians. It's just as it's been all season. 7 goals to 1 in the opening term. Set the tone. We already know they're playing finals. We already know they're minor premiers. The only thing left to determine is if they can go all the way and take out the flag. Well, that was another big step in the right direction for Geordie McKenzie's men.
And that percentage is important because it's dragged Old Melburnians all the way down to Camberwell. Old Melburnians at 86.7 and Old Camberwell at 85.1. And as you mentioned, the 2 teams outside the 4 have also got vastly superior percentages. So that has, as we've said all year, no one's beaten Collegians. So it's not about beating Collegians. It's about minimising the damage when you play them, Brayden. If you can only lose to them by 4 or 5 goals and everyone else is losing to them by 10 or 12, you're picking up that chunk of percentage on the rest of the field.
It just makes a world of difference. And look, if it goes the wrong way and Ajax get the result and Old Melburnians drop off and Beaumaris win as well, it just turns everything on its head and you think, did I switch off for 5 minutes to where we've conceded 3 goals? It's about playing 4 quarters.
Yeah, we saw it in the VFL on a couple of weeks ago when they were fighting for spots in the last round between Frankston and Coburg, and it was going up and down in the live ladder, and it was literally a goal between them. I think it was 0.4% at the end of an entire season. So it can happen. It may happen. If it's going to happen anywhere, it's probably going to happen in Premier B. Let's be honest. You had a fantastic point that you were desperate to make.
Oh no, I just want to put forward my case for Josh Burke, the Beaumaris coach of the season.
Okay.
I just want to touch on the fact that this club is still in finals contention. They lost so much experience on the back of promotion, and I think a lot of people thought they're just going to drop straight back down. But whatever he's done, the work he's put into the youth, the confidence, and it comes from the players as well, but the system that they've got down at that footy club, we speak about that corridor with the junior numbers. I just think he's got to be almost the coach of the year for the entire VAFA because he's performed above expectations. Lockie Buzzard's in the conversation as well if they do make finals. But like, even just touching on those two sides, they've both conceded 1,323 points this year. They're only separated by 46 points in the two promoted sides. So I think a lot of credit needs to go to both those men for the way they have led those sides in this division.
Yeah, no doubt. It's not an easy thing to jump up from Prem C to Prem B. And these guys, neither of them have been in the relegation race at all.
No, and they're taking the finals race right up to the final day of the season. In probably one of the most competitive competitions in the state. So no, it's a phenomenal effort from both of them. Just a final thing on the way that the finals do or could potentially play out. Old Melburnians could lose, Beaumaris could win, and Old Camberwell could still make finals even if they do lose the Wellers, because the percentage between them and OMs is so small. I think if the OMs lose by whatever the Wellers do plus 3 additional goals, only 3.
It's going to be tight.
It'll they can still make it. And Beaumaris, they have to win, but if they do, they'd qualify for finals with just 8 wins to their name for the season. They'd have won less than half their games and still gone into September. Crazy.
It's the craziness of Prem B.
Yep.
Which brings us to our final game, Matty, and it was a critical game for both these teams.
Yeah, Old Camberwell and Old Geelong, this was huge, and it was the Wellers who managed to get up just, defeating Old Geelong by just the 14 points at Como Park. A really good win on the road for the Wellers. They led by just 3 points heading into time on, but they held their nerve. They kicked the last 2 goals of the game. They won 13-10-88 to 10-14-74. Sets up a terrific finish to the season. The Wellers, if they can get a result against Beaumaris this weekend, they qualify for the finals, and for Beaumaris, they get a win and they leapfrog the Wellers into the top 4. The OGs, they're out of the running now. That was it for them. Leading the way, though, for the Wellers, again, as he's done all season up for Liam Thomas, another 3 goals, takes his tally to 47 for the season. He's had a terrific campaign in front of goal.
Had a terrific campaign, and he joins us now, and for the love of the game. Liam, thanks so much for your time.
G'day, guys. Good to be here.
Mate, thanks so much. Tell us a little bit about your season. As Matty just mentioned, 47 goals. You've had a great year.
Yeah, no, thanks, Jason. Yeah, no, had a pretty good year so far. The boys took a little bit to get going, I think, the Wellers, but we sort of kicked into gear the middle through the year, and then we sort of pushed that top 4 spot. So it's been great to be part of that, and then hopefully we can get into September next week.
Has it been personnel? Has it been just a clicking game plan? Have there been tweaks that have been made? What have you put down to this sort of adaptation on the run and this ability to surge up into contention?
Yeah, I think we've been led by a brilliant coach with Neil Connell and Codgy Boy at the moment. He's been terrific, and I think he's just got the personnel and the depth that we've got, training week in, week out. We've got blokes who can fill multiple roles, young guys supported by mature age dudes, and it's terrific. We've got a lot of players that can fill roles, and yeah, they can just adapt to what we've got, and that's what we need. You know, people go away and injured and that, and just throughout the middle of the year, it's been terrific. These young guys coming in and playing their role.
Liam, congratulations on the win at the weekend and on your season so far. And having spoke with Neil throughout the course of the season, one of the things that he emphasises heavily every week I chat with him is contests and being able to win the ball on the inside. It seems that mantra has held you in good stead throughout the campaign. How have you viewed it?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Most of our game plan's surrounded, by that pressure and that contest, and I think it's that resilience to keep going throughout each quarter and build off that. It's been a really good game strategy and plan, and I think when you get a lot of buy-in and support from the coaches, it can just build from there.
Liam, we marvel on this podcast about the fact of how even Premier B is, and we love to ask our guest, what is it about the competition that means you've got to turn up every week? Can you put your finger on what makes it such a beautiful competition to be a part of?
Oh yeah, well, to be honest, it's fantastic, really. Like bar collegians who are undefeated, it's on any given week, it's pretty much from 2 to 10. Whoever plays their best footy can win, and I think that just means that you can't go into a Saturday expecting to win and just rolling in, and it just makes it really exciting to play as a player. You don't know what you're going to get, and you've got to put your foot down, and the boys are going to be switched on. And it's just great to know that anyone can win on each week.
Must be some buzz around the place, some excitement this week. The idea of playing this virtual elimination final against Beaumaris, winning you're in. So finals for you guys start this week.
Yeah, it is pretty exciting. That's sort of the mindset, I think, going into the week ahead. It's the last round of the year, I guess, but it pretty much is the first final. And I think we're looking to be really switched on and really keen to play down there at Trevor Barker as well.
What are you expecting from Beaumaris?
Oh, they're a tough mob, Beaumaris, and I think they're in really good form, and they're building, and they've had a few games where they've just picked up their form, and they've got some really, really key players that we're going to have to watch. But as long as we bring our A game, I think we'll definitely be up for the fight.
What would it mean to you and to the club, Liam, to make finals? And to you, I mean, when you started out, I think you were playing, you played a couple of games of Div 1, didn't you, when you first started at the Wellers?
Yeah, I played my first game in the final, Div 1, and then a grand final there, which was pretty tough. But it's been terrific for the club to get to where we are now, Div 1 a couple of years ago, and then Prem B. And it's just off the back of all these experienced guys who are currently playing and also who drive the club off the field. It'd mean the most. They haven't the clubs. It'd be the best position they've been in history. So it'd be pretty exciting to get them there at finals. And yeah, hopefully we can get there on Saturday.
Liam, just back on the game at the weekend against Old Geelong, what did you make of it? Because as I mentioned, it was a really tense game. Margin was pretty close all day, and they themselves, the OGs, were fighting for a spot in the finals as well. What did you make of the game at the weekend? Because it felt like a pretty tough one.
Yeah, it was. It swung back and forth throughout the day, and they've got some great personnel down there at sort of both ends of the field. And I think it was just, as I spoke for earlier, that resilience just could keep going, persistence, and tremendous work from our backs. A lot of aerial contests to bring that ball to ground, repeat efforts, and then our mids just to win those battles, to bring it forward. And then, we had multiple goal scorers on the day, and everyone really chipped in and just kept working and knew the task at hand, and finished it off with 4 quarters of effort.
Well, playing in Premier B certainly builds resilience. As you said, you've got to bring it every single week, Liam. You're going to have to bring it again this weekend. Hey, best of luck. Thanks so much for your time and for the love of the game. We can't wait to see this weekend's big clash, Beaumaris and Old Camberwell.
Perfect, guys. Appreciate your time. Looking forward to it.
Introducing Guzmani Gomez approved crispy chicken tenders. 100% clean Lilydale free-range chicken breast tenders. Dip them into GYG's Chipotle Mayo or our new sweet Chipotle barbecue sauce. Get yours now at Guzmani Gomez.
This is For the Love of the Game. It's time to talk Premier C men's. And if we thought Premier B men's was crazy and going all the way down to the final round, well, guess what? Premier C's got itself an elimination final as well. We've got 2 to look forward to. Prem B, it'll be winning you're in. Prem C, it'll be winning you're in. It's Mazenod at the moment, currently occupying 4th position ahead of St Bede's Mentone Tigers by 1 game, but with inferior percentage. So it's all set up, and guess who's playing each other this weekend? Mazenod and St Bede's Mentone Tigers. An elimination final, and joining us is the co-coach of the Tigers, JOEL McKEE. JOEL, thanks for your time.
Nah, no worries at all, Jay. Thanks for having me.
What an exciting time of year, mate. What an exciting opportunity for you and your team.
Yeah, it certainly is. We're really welcoming the challenger this week, and like you've already alluded to, mate, it's a little mini final for us already. So, no, the boys are really excited for it, and based off last week, seems to be hitting some form at the right time of year.
Yeah, well, you've won 3 of your last 4. In fact, you've won, 5 of your last 7. So you certainly have clicked at the right time of the season. What have you put that down to?
Yeah, we have. I suppose it's been a little bit of the story of our year. We've beaten the teams that are below us on the ladder, and we haven't quite been able to get those above us. But I think for us, it's 2 new coaches coming in, first-time coaches. We're getting to that part of the year now that we've been training the same way and playing the same way for, the best part of 20, 25 weeks. So, in terms of a new game plan, new system, getting the best look for our 22, we just seem to be hitting form right at that right time, which has been fantastic.
What have been the upsides and the challenges of having the co-coaching setup? Because I think you might be the only senior team in the entire VAFA that has that setup.
Yeah, no, it's been terrific. Myself and Tom have known each other for a long time. We played junior footy both against and with each other, spent some time at Dragons together as well. So, but we've known each other since we were kids. So that in terms of the relationship there, it's always been there. And in terms of how it's worked as the coachings, Tom's done a lot of the, obviously playing as well. He does a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. So that's been fantastic. And then in terms of training, he needs to train as well. So that's been a little bit of a challenge. I sort of take the drills while he does the training plan in the background sort of thing. So, no, it's been terrific. There hasn't really been, we haven't had any blow-ups or anything like that.
I was about to say, have you had to give him a rocket at any stage?
No, absolutely not. If anyone has seen Tom play, he's certainly our best couple of players every week. So there's no selection questions or anything like that, which would make life a little bit difficult.
Joel, it's Brayden here, mate. Thank you very much for your time. It was an emotional week for the footy club. Obviously, you got the great result against Hampton, but one of the favourite sons, Dan Garside, retiring, following in the footsteps of his brother who retired mid-season. What can you tell us about Dan as a person and as a player and what he means to your footy club?
Yeah, he's as good as they get, mate. As good as they get for club people, but also footballers at local level as well. Represented the VAFA on multiple occasions, both at 19 and senior level throughout his career. Both him and brother Tom had a stint out at Euroa, where their dad played some footy as well, and then have come back over the last few years. And they're just real soul to the earth people. They're country people. And have both been just such fantastic contributors to our footy club, both on and off the field as well. Their mum and dad have both supported the club for a long time in multiple different roles as well. So, they're certainly going to be missed, but they were also certainly, especially DG, was a real driving factor behind Saturday's win as well.
Joel, the season's come full circle. You started the season with a close game against Mazenod, and you were going to finish the season with a game against them. Do you remember much about that game and what you can take from it heading into this one on the weekend?
Yeah, certainly little bits. Round 1 and round 18, I suppose, is a little bit unique. But we've certainly been keeping a close eye on them right throughout the year as well. We know their best 5 or 6 players are the absolute some of the best in the whole of C grade, really. They're certainly a really, really talented group. And I remember them being quite tall, which is something that we, lack a little bit of height in our side. So there was certainly some challenges there. In terms of the way they play, not really being 18 weeks ago. But there's little bits and pieces that we'll certainly go to work on this week. And little holes that we might be able to try and exploit a little bit.
And you guys,
it's certainly going to be a big challenge.
You guys would have evolved a lot as well, as you said. Your game's come a long way in 18 weeks.
Yeah, I think so. We had them round 1. We really set ourselves for that. Obviously, like we've spoken about, Tom and I, our first crack at coaching. So we've certainly learnt a lot as coaches. But I think our group, it's a really, really young group. And getting another 15 or 16 senior games into a lot of those boys is, going to be really beneficial for us, not only for this week, hopefully the finals campaign, but also going into 2027 and beyond as well.
What would it mean to the club to make finals this week, and what's the messaging from you and Tom to the group?
Yeah, I think it'll be huge. I was involved at St Bede's last year and over the last 5 or 6 years as a reserves coach as well. And watched us go to a C grade finals campaign last year. We just fell short against Ajax in that first elimination final. But we also lost a fair bit of talent over the off season in terms of players like Jack Bank, who's now doing fantastic things at St Kevin's and St Kilda VFL. We lost Jake Wright at Parkdale, who won our best and fairest last year. Darcy Fountain left as well. So these guys were key contributors last year. And to get back to that same spot after losing that amount of talent would be, a massive effort from our whole playing group. It certainly means plenty this weekend. It's not lost on us what it would mean to get back to playing C grade finals. So we're really excited by it.
Can you just give us an insight to a few of maybe the young fellas that have actually stood up in leadership roles or gone beyond expectations this year that you've enjoyed coaching?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I suppose the first one goes without saying, but we had a new captain come in this year in Matt LaPalma. Matt's only a 22-year-old guy, but pretty much as soon as he came up into the senior group, has been a real leader of the group. And we as new coaches, put a vote at the start of the year for captain and our whole leadership group. And Lachie Palfrey, who's done a tremendous job over the last couple of years, is still in a vice captain position, but Matt was the overwhelming favourite for that captain role. So he's done an absolutely amazing job, really uniting such a young group. and continuing to help them develop whilst also developing himself and his own game as well. From a leadership perspective, definitely him. And then we're playing 4 to 5 guys that are still eligible for under 19 footy every week. So guys like Toby Coleridge, Cooper and Allen, who's rucked for us pretty much the whole year as a 19-year-old. The talent coming through is certainly there. So really exciting time for the club as well.
Where do you beat Mazenod this weekend? What do you have to do to win this game and make finals?
Well, we like I said, in terms of their talent, we know Boyce up forward. I think he kicked 4 in round 1 against us. Back at the start of the year. So we know his talent. We know he's kicked a couple of massive bags throughout the years. So he's certainly the number one we have to stop. We know Matty Fewing's certainly the only player from B grade down who represented the VAFA in the A grade side this year as well. So we know his talent too. There's players right across the park for them that we're going to have to go to work on and really shut down. I feel like we've spoken about already, our game has just grown so much from round 1 in terms of how we move the footy. A few different personnel changes in different positions that maybe they hadn't played before as well. So I think as much as Mazenod's going to be a challenge for us, we're certainly going to put some things on the park that's going to be a challenge for them as well.
It's going to be a fantastic game. We can't wait to see how it all pans out. JOEL McKEE, thanks so much for your time, mate. Best of luck.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Bray. Have a good one, mate.
Going to be fantastic. What a game. Mazenod versus St Bede's Mentone Tigers. Big weekends for the Tigers because their under-19s are on KTV this weekend as well, taking on Zabs.
Yeah, really exciting. And I'm excited to see how they stack up. As Joel just touched on, half the kids are available in the senior game. It would be interesting if we start getting the old double up ahead of both final series.
And they do have some talent coming through, Matty, the Tigers. We've seen those at under-19s this year. And as we've talked about a number of times this year, that pipeline is just so important.
Yeah, critical for sustainability for any club. If you've got a next generation coming through, not only does it provide depth in the short term, but it also sets you up long term in terms of making sure that you've got a competitive side.
Let's run through all the games from the weekend, round 17. It's setting itself up for a blockbuster final round, as we mentioned. We've got an elimination final to look forward to between Mazenod and St Bede's Mentone Tigers, but there's so much more to look forward to in Premier C. Brayden, let's run through the results from round 17.
Yeah, and the game that allowed the result to head into an elimination final in the final round of the season is Fitzroy. 25-19 defeated Mazenod 3-5-23. That is scary good. Fitzroy, I don't think they've put their best side on the park, so good luck to everyone else trying to catch up to them. At the other end of the ladder, Marcelin guaranteed safety with a 16-12 108 win against Old Peninsula 8-8-56. Pegs bad kicking here, 8-17-65. Still managed to get over the line against Ormond, 8-10-58, who I believe are relegated, but Matty will give us the ladder in a second. And then in the final game of the weekend, Parkdale Vultures still without Mitch Brown. Brown watch is making me a bit nervous here. The finals, 21-26, 152. Got the better of Glen Ira, Old McKinnon, 5-6-36.
And then as the other game, as we mentioned earlier with Joel, big win over Hampton Rovers. Huge win that for the Tigers to keep their season alive. 23 goals, 8. Hugo would have been doing cartwheels, 146 to 615-51. So 31 scoring shots to 21, and they won that by 95 points, St Bede's. A huge win, massive for their percentage, keeps their season alive. Matty, let's talk through firstly the finals race, but also relegation still alive in Prem C as well.
Yeah, still plenty of battles at both ends of the table. We go to the top. Fitzroy still out in front, a game clear of Parkdale at the moment. 4 points is the difference between those two at the moment. You'd think, given the gap in percentage between the two, that the minor premiership is also locked away for Fitzroy, but it's still not absolutely guaranteed just yet. A couple of games behind them, Hampton Rovers, they look like they've got third spot locked up. They can't really move, can't see they're moving. We talked about Mazenod, St Bede's, Mentone. When you're in, St Bede's have the superior percentage, so a win of any margin will see them leapfrog Mazenod. Then a massive gap, which we've sort of touched on a couple of times this season. Pegs are safe at the moment. They're in sixth spot with 5 wins, 2 games clear. Then we get to a bit of a relegation battle, and it's there's a bit of a percentage gap here between a couple of these teams, but still a bit to play out. So Marcelin on 4 wins with a percentage of 63. Glen Ira, Old McKinnon, 4 wins with a percentage of 49. And Old Peninsula, 3 wins, percentage of 53. So if Old Peninsula win and Glen Ira, Old McKinnon lose this week, then the North Peninsula will be able to leapfrog Glenara Old
What are
McKinney.
those matchups?
So the Griffins have got to play Fitzroy.
Yeah, okay, that's going to be
tricky.
tough. Yep.
And Old Peninsula are going to play Pegs away from home.
So Old Peninsula is still very much a chance if they can. And again, Pegs, a little bit like we've talked about Blacks. A few of those teams that sit in the middle of the ladder, you're never quite sure what to make of them, Brayden. If Pegs come out and play their best footy, they're hard to beat. But if Peninsula, with everything to play for, they're not without a chance.
Exactly right, and they're going to come fired up. That's a long road trip down from the Peninsula all the way up to Keel or region. So again, Pegs, they're safe, nothing to play for. They're just going to go through the motions, looking forward to Saturday night end of the season function. So Peninsula might pull something out of the hat.
It would be an enormous effort because the two teams that came up from Div 1 last year, Peninsula and Ormond, have been the bottom two teams basically all year and really struggled and been uncompetitive at times. If Peninsula could find a way to stay up, that would be a huge result for them to build on for 2027.
I'll tell you what, it'd be a great trip back.
It'd be a long trip back if they lose, but an awesome trip back if they win. Division 1, let's talk Division footy now, and Division 1 results from the weekend. This was, of course, the final round of the season for Division 1 because they're a week ahead of Premier. So this is going to be final ladders, final round action. Q finished in style, 27-20, 182, defeated UHS for you, 4-5-29. Parkside, 30-16, 196. Too good for Monash Blues, 7-8-50. 146 points the margin there. Oakley, 18-18, 126. Big winners over St Mary's Salesian, 7-7-49. 77-point margin there. Paran, also big winners. 108-point win over Brunswick, 19-16, 130. Brunswick, 3-4-22. Preston, 29-11, 185 over Old Yarra Cobras, 6-7-43 by 142 points. So all massive, massive blowouts in the final round of Division 1 men's, which brings us to our final ladder with finals to begin this weekend in men's divisional footy. And it's Preston Bull Ants. Congratulations to them. They win the minor premiership 17-1 on 68 points. What a season so far from the Bull Ants, and they will head into September as hot favourites in Division 1 men's. Second spot to meet them in the second semi-final is Q on 56 points. They're a game clear of Paran and Oakley, so the Crushers hang on to fourth spot. Paran and Oakley tied together on 52. They will meet this weekend in Division 1 action. Then you've got Parkside outside the top four. They finished in fifth position on 48 points. Big gap to St Mary's Salesian on 32. Then Brunswick, Monash Blues, and the two teams to be relegated will be UHSVU and Old Yarra Cobras. So Preston Bull Ants will take on Q in the second semi-final this weekend. Paran will take on Oakley in the first semi-final. And Paran Bull Ants, Brayden, would be one of the red-hot favourites right across the VAFA heading into September.
I'm going to challenge you on that. Q are the favourites. Q's form has been unbelievable. I know they played a few weeks ago and the Bull Ants had a few hours.
Well, we're about to see, aren't they? Because they're going to play this weekend.
I reckon Q are just primed to go through and win this premiership at the moment.
So let's give you the details of when these teams are to play this weekend before we move on to Division 2 men's, which Matty will run us through. So Division 1 men's, the second semi-final, that game we just spoke about, Preston Bull Ants taking on Q, will be a Saturday game. Saturday, 2 p.m. at Coburg City Oval. So Saturday, 2 o'clock, Coburg City Oval, the second semi-final between the Preston Bull Ants and Q. Then Sunday will be the first semi-final, the cutthroat game. This is down at Dingley, Hawthorn's facility. The VAFA has managed to secure Dingley, the AFLW home of the Hawks, and Hawthorn's obviously their AFL program as well. What a great opportunity to play on a ground of that quality across the final series. So this Sunday, 2 o'clock at the Kennedy Centre, Paran taking on Oakley in the first semi-final. So Sunday footy there for Paran and Oakley. Saturday, the second semi-final between Preston and Q down at Coburg City Oval.
Yeah, that's going to be a really exciting game. And let's hope we've got fine weather because I think we've all heard out of Hawthorn that it can get quite windy down there.
Very windy.
Let's hope it's not because it can ruin a good game of footy. But that's going to be an exciting game. Paran, the side that came down from Premier C against Oakley, the young side with so much talent. We spoke to Rogan Kitts last week. I don't know how to shape that one. That could go either way.
Let's talk Division 2 men's.
Yeah, no, there were some big results in Division 2 that have shaped up the ladder at the end of the season. We'll start with Whitefriars, who secured the minor premiership with a 27-point win over Therapanola, 12-84 to 8-9-57. South Melbourne with a big win over Aquinas, 89 points in the end, 22-16, 148 to 9-5-59. How about this at Melbourne High School for a shootout? MHSOB in Canterbury winning 20-11, 143 to 16-11, 107.
Wow.
So 250 points.
Good value for money there.
Yeah, no, plenty of goals in that one. 38 majors all up. West Brunswick were too good for Elsonwick. It was accuracy that plagued this match. 15-8, 98 to 5-12, 42. That was the difference there. Then Powerhouse with a 43-point win over North Brunswick. 15-10, 100 to 8-9, 57. And as we look at what this means for the final ladder for Division 2, Whitefriars, as I said, their win was good enough to see them secure the minor premiership with a 14-4 record. The results with Powerhouse and MHSOB losing meant that Powerhouse leapfrogged them into second spot.
Yeah, so they get the double chance.
Yes, they do. So level on 13-5 apiece. But
which again, when we talk about unbelievable performances, they were the premiers in Division 2 last year. So they've jumped up, been promoted, and finished in the top 2.
Yeah, they've had quite a remarkable 12 months, Powerhouse, and they'll one win away from progressing right through to the grand final, which we'll get to with the finals fixture. So MHSOB slide to third. They'll play Canterbury in that first semi-final. Canterbury finishing with a 12-6 record. 2 games behind them, sitting outside the top 4. Elsonwick, 10-8 record. West Brunswick in 6th. Therapanola in 7th with a 7-11 record. South Melbourne round out the teams that are safe in Division 2, and then North Brunswick and Aquinas. North Brunswick with 4-14 record, Aquinas with 2 wins to their name for the season.
So let's talk semi-final football, Division 2 men's. The first semi-final, both these games on Sunday, both Sunday at 2 o'clock, in fact, at different venues. So semi-final 1, the cutthroat game, MHSOB taking on Canterbury at Marcelin, on Marcelin College 2 Oval there at 2 o'clock on Sunday. The second semi-final, which is the one straight through the grand final, also at Marcelin on the main oval, Whitefriars taking on Powerhouse. So a great afternoon of Division 2 men's footy at Marcelin coming away on Sunday. 2 o'clock for both those games, Whitefriars versus Powerhouse on the main oval, and MHSOB versus Canterbury on oval number 2 at Marcelin. So if you're a fan of Division 2 men's, it's been a great comp all season. Get along to Marcelin on Sunday and enjoy all the action. That brings us to Division 3 men's.
Well, Division 3, we actually had the week off and we're heading straight into final, so we might just jump straight into that.
Let's go to the matchups.
So second semi-final, the red-hot favourite, I think, in all of the VAFA. Wattle Park, they will take on Hawthorn in the second semi-final out at Whitefriars College from 2 p.m. on Saturday. And then in the other semi-final, so I've just got to find it here on my notes, we're going to Jack Barker Oval, where Richmond Central will take on Latrobe University from 2 p.m. on Saturday.
Yeah, so 2 Saturday, 2 o'clock games. The first semi-final at Jack Barker, Richmond Central versus Latrobe University. The second semi-final out at Whitefriars, Wattle Park taking on Hawthorn. That will be week 1 of the Division 3 men's finals series. That wraps up our men's wrap for this week. After the break, we're going to talk VAFA women's on For the Love of the Game.
Footy finals are almost here, and there's no better way to kick them off than at the 2026 William Buck VAFA Finals Luncheon. Join MC Nat Edwards, AFL legends and Brownlow medalists James Hurd and Jimmy Bartel, plus Jason Bennett and the VAFA media team for a live For the Love of the Game finals preview. Friday, September 4th at the RACV City Club. Enjoy a premium 2-course lunch, beverage package and an unforgettable afternoon of football stories and finals insights. Book your tickets now at vafa.com.au. Don't miss out on one of the biggest events on the VAFA calendar.
Time to talk William Buck Premier Women's on For the Love of the Game, and the big game that we were all watching with interest on the weekend between the top 2 teams. It's a September preview. It was Old Scotch taking on Caulfield Grammarians, and the reigning champs, the 2-time champs, got it done in fine style. 6-7-43 Old Scotch defeated Caulfield 1-8 by 35 points to put their stake in the ground to be premiership favourites for a hat-trick of flags, which was what they've set out to achieve. St Kevin's did it. They were the benchmark of the competition. Now a chance for Old Scotch to do the same thing.
hard to win premierships at the best of times. So to go 3 in a row, it just speaks to what a phenomenal side that Old Scotch have put together, and looking good to actually make it happen.
Long way to go. It'll just add some spice to when these two sides meet in the second semi-final in a couple of weeks. But it was Old Scotch on the weekend by 35 points. Elsewhere, Old Brighton 9-6-60 defeated Old Geelong 4-7-31 by 29 points. A great win for Westbourne Grammarians. Well done to them over St Kevin's. 5-3-33 defeated St Kevin's 1-5-11 by 22 points. Fitzroy, big win. 5-4-34 over West Brunswick 3-1-19 by 15 points. And Q had the bye. So we take a look at the ladder with one game still to play. It's Old Scotch now have kicked clear of Caulfield Grammarians at the top of the table. They've got a big gap over Old Brighton and Q in 3rd and 4th. A game back to West Brunswick, Fitzroy, Old Geelong, and then St Kevin's and Westbourne Grammarians. So huge win for Old Scotch, and they assume premiership favouritism in William Buck Premier Women's.
Yeah, and then moving on to Prem B Women's, we had the first week of finals this weekend, or weekend just gone rather, and it's Beaumaris who stamped their papers through to the grand final off the back of an 11-point win against Old Melburnians, 4-3-27 to 2-4-16. So congratulations to the Sharks. They are through to the decider, and they will play the winner of the preliminary final, which is going to take place between Old Melburnians and Port Melbourne Chargers, who defeated Williamstown CYMS by 29 points, 8-10-58 to 4-5-29.
So that game will be the Premier B Women's preliminary final. It will be at the Kennedy Community Centre at 2 o'clock on Saturday. So Saturday, 2 p.m, the Prem B Women's preliminary final at the Kennedy Centre. It's Old Melburnians taking on Port Melbourne Chargers for a spot in the grand final. Let's talk Divisional Women's Footy, and we'll start with Division 1.
Some exciting results here. Powerhouse, the club, is on a roll at the moment in the men's and women's program. They moved through to the grand final with a 7-5-47 to 5-3-33 win over Ormond, who dropped into the prelim, and where they'll face Marcelin, who overcame Monash Blues 5-7-37 to 1-2-8.
So that prelim that between Ormond and Marcelin will be Saturday at 9:20 at the Kennedy Community Centre in Dingley. Saturday 9:20, the Division 1 preliminary final, Ormond taking on Marcelin. Brings us to Division 2 Women's, which was a really tight competition all year. First semi-final, St Mary's Salesian 3-6-24 ended Old Camberwell season 1-2-8 by 16 points. And then in the second semi, straight through to grand final day is DYLAN CENCH. Congratulations to DYLAN. 5-5-35, defeating Richmond Central 3-7-25 by 10 points, which means our Division 2 Women's preliminary final coming up this weekend will be a Saturday game. It is Saturday at 9:40 at Jack Barker Oval in Cheltenham. It'll be Richmond Central taking on St Mary's Salesian. 9:40 Saturday at Jack Barker Oval, Division 3.
Yeah, and our first team in Division 3 is through to the grand final. Parkdale Vultures, congratulations to them. They managed to defeat Hawthorn by 7 points at Waverley Oval, 2-7-19 to 2-12. Hawthorn will now face Old Haileybury in the preliminary final, who were too good for Paranka Legions. The Two Blue Lions, the best nickname in the game. It's over 5-7-37, the Bloods. Paranka Legions 2-1-13. So 24-point win there for Old Haileybury. So it sets up a preliminary final encounter between Hawthorn and Old Haileybury, the winner to play Parkdale in the grand final.
So that preliminary final between Hawthorn and Old Haileybury will be a Sunday game, Sunday 2 o'clock at Jack Barker Oval in Cheltenham. Hawthorn taking on Old Haileybury.
To Division 4, where Mazenod became the first team through the grand final. So congratulations to the Nodders. 3-2-20 got the better of Aquinas, who will be very disappointed. 1-12-18.
1-12.
That is some of the roughest kicking. But the good thing is they earned the top.
3-2 to 1-12. So they've had 13 scoring shots to 5. Oh
no.
Ouch.
Absolutely heartbreaking. Meanwhile, Wattle Park got the better of Old Zabs. 5-6-36 to 5-3-33. A great result considering that Wattle Park did not score in the last quarter.
So this is the Division 4 preliminary final. It's going to be a Saturday game. Saturday 9:40 at Whitefriars College. Aquinas taking on Wattle Park at Whitefriars 9:40 Saturday morning. Division 5 Women's, our two semi-finals over the weekend. Our first semi, Ormond 6-10-46 kept their season alive but ended Elston Wicks 4-3-27. It was the Monders by 19 points. The second semi, straight through to the grand final, is Preston Bullants. 4-9-33, defeated St Kevin's 2-3-15 by 18 points, which means our Division 5 Women's preliminary final this weekend will be at Jack Barker Oval, 11:50 on Sunday. Sunday at 11:50 at Jack Barker Oval, it will be St Kevin's taking on Ormond. Looking for a new gym? Well, Revo Fitness has you covered. It's just $9.69 a week. No lock-in contracts, and you get 24/7 access to every Revo gym. Add just $3 extra per week for unlimited reformer Pilates, massage chairs, and body scanners. Revo Fitness. Proper value, no gimmicks. Find your nearest gym at revofitness.com.au. Welcome back to For the Love of the Game. Time to talk Holmesglen Under 19 Premiers. Senchi joins us.
It's good to be here for another week. We're 1 week away from finals in 19, so I think Lockie might have got me in the tip-in this week.
He may have. We'll get to that shortly. We had some finals footy across the weekend, which of course makes for great socials content. Lots of excited teams, lots of teams that are a bit disappointed their seasons are wrapped up, and thanking everybody, but a busy time certainly for the social people out at clubs everywhere.
Yeah, busy time of year, and but this is why we do it.
Exactly right, exactly right. LACHIE MOIR, our Under 19 Premier expert guru, joins us. G'day, Lock.
G'day, lads. Yeah, did get Senchi this week.
Yes, I thought you might be up and about.
He's all over it.
Yes,
unfortunately, I've left the run a little bit late here, I think. So, yeah, not much to
plenty of time
about.
if you're good enough, except for the fact there's probably not enough games left. But, you know, that's the way it goes. Where would you like to start your wrap of round 17?
Yeah, I'd like to start with Caulfield's big win. 110-65 here, defeating St Bede's Mentone away from home. They're really continuing to finish strongly this season, and shout out to them. It would have been interesting to see over these last couple of months if they had their full strength team in without the injuries and all that sort of stuff, how they would have finished, because they've finished really strongly here. Speaking to Coach Cooper All, he sort of described it as a very sort of what-if type of season if they had all their players in. But geez, they were good today. Big win away against a very good side. St Bede's had their chances. And they're only one sort of scoring shot behind at three-quarter time, and they missed some set shots which hurt them, and Caulfield just kicked into another gear in the final term and ran away with it. So, yeah, shout out to Caulfield. Very good end of this season.
Ollie Wilson kicked 6 goals in this game. He kicked 4 of them in the final quarter.
Yeah, they must have put the foot down in that last term to only have a goal of difference at three-quarter time. Or it was 21 points of difference at three-quarter time, or they kicked 6 in the last quarter, 6 goals to 2, and rocketed away.
Yeah, they did. And the Zavs, they're still in the top 2, Lockie, looking to lock away the double chance. But the minor premiership's still on offer for them thanks to a big win at the weekend.
Yeah, that's right. This game, although it does sort of read 83-point win for Old Zavs, you'd think it was an absolute drubbing. It was only 10 points of difference at quarter time. Both teams were sort of evenly matched. But, yeah, just in that second, third and fourth quarter, they really put the foot down and showed some class. Accurate goal kicking 17 goals, 8, which was really good. And, yeah, like we keep talking about, they're looking one of the competition's strongest teams and really humming going into the final series. And for Parkdale, shout out to Kobe Donovan. He was pretty good down back. It was a good opportunity for Parkdale's younger players to get a few games into them and farewell some of the top age players out of the side. So, yeah, but Old Zab's just too good. But, yeah, Parkdale just unable to go with them for the entire contest.
And like the old Brighton, one hand on the minor premiership in a game reminiscent of what us older folk from the 90s, 114-94, bit of a shootout.
Yeah, it was. It's what we love to see, high-scoring footy. They kicked 6-1 in the first quarter, so pretty accurate stuff, and they sort of just set the tone from there. One of the most entertaining games of the round and a high-scoring contest that we all want. And Travis O'Donoghue just sort of said that first quarter probably proved the difference in the end, and they were just too good. The Uni Blues did fight their way back into the contest. They were good around the ball, fast ball movement. They increased their pressure, but it was probably just a little bit too late. And, yeah, a couple of really big standouts for them with George Rourke and Max Wilcox, under 16 eligible player as well. So he's stepping up well above his pay grade, which is great. And yeah, look, unfortunately for the Uni Blues, they were missing their captain, Ted Bain. He made his senior debut, so that probably cost them. But it sets up for a massive final round clash. Old Brighton take on Old Scotch. So that'll be huge next week.
Yeah, it will be. And it's going to be one of our games on VAFA TV over the weekend. Very much looking forward to that. Older blokes from the 90s. And then I realised, well, these blokes, the rest of them weren't even born, let alone watching footy back in the 90s. Gee whiz.
Lucky this is where you got me in the tip in St Kevin's with a 27-point win over DYLAN, locking themselves into finals and eliminating DYLAN in the process.
Yeah, really nice win. Paul Greenham described it as a nice building win. He thinks they're building nicely towards finals. He's liking what he's seeing, which is always a positive sign. Hard, tough game with strong ball movement from both sides. These sides can move the ball. It's incredible to watch. But unfortunately for DYLAN, they kicked 10 behinds before they kicked their first goal. So, gee, that hurts.
Of all teams to do it, Hugo would have been just in a fetal position somewhere in the corner.
Yeah, that was tough to witness. But Andy Otten's still very proud of his side's effort against a very good team in St Kevin's. And unfortunately, St Kevin's just closed out the game better than they did. But, look, Greenham's really adamant. He's been saying it for a few weeks that this is probably the year where the most amount of good sides are going to miss out on finals, just based on how close it is. So it'll be interesting to see who can squeeze in.
Matty, please tell me that Hugo's the goal-kicking consultant down at DYLAN Under 19s.
He might have been in the first half. Does that mean then, Lockie, because I'm just looking at the scoreboard here, does that mean that they kicked 10 consecutive behinds and then backed up with 7 consecutive goles?
Yeah, that is correct. So that's just crazy stuff, really. I don't know what's going on there.
I think Hugo had a word with him after quarter time.
At half time, the coach has come in and gone, hey, guys, between the ones in the middle. I gotcha. Thanks, coach.
Oh, he forgot.
Final game of the round. Great kicking from Old Scotch. 20 goals, 8-1-28. Defeated Beaumaris 10-4-64 by 64 points. And as Lockie mentioned, sets up an absolute ripper this week. Old Brighton on top. Old Scotch in fourth. That's going to be a one ripper of a game, Senchi.
Yeah, a big test for Scotch heading into finals. They finished the year on an 11-2 run after starting 0-4, so prime for finals.
What do you think, Lockie?
Yeah, well, this is similar to some of the other games. It was actually level at quarter time, and Scotch were only winning by 8 points at half time, but they put on 2 7-goal consecutive quarters to run out comfortable winners by 64 points. Shout out to Dylan Lang. He kicked 6, so that's a big day for him. They just were too strong in the end, and Beaumaris weren't able to go with them. They were actually successfully able to limit their running game in the first half. Like, we obviously talk about how strong they can be when they get up and running, Scotch, and Beaumaris were actually pretty good, but they probably just ran out a bit of puff towards the end, and they had a couple of game-ending injuries as well, which left Beaumaris with only 2 on the bench, so that doesn't help against a very good side. They just ran out of puff, I think, in that final term, but yeah, like we said, Old Scotch, Old Brighton, you probably couldn't split them at the moment. I know which way Senchi you'd go, but I'm unsure yet.
Well, this could be an opportunity for a strategic tip for you. And I did watch that game. That was our KTV game on the weekend, and exactly as you described it. Beaumaris were fantastic, and in the end, Old Scotch just had the depth, and Dylan Lang was brilliant with 6 goals. So tips from around 17. Lockie got 4, Senchi got 3, so the gap is closed to 8. Wow, it all comes down to 5 games this weekend, and then we've got finals. So pretty much you need to just run the gauntlet from here.
There's 9 games left, right? So I just got to get 2, and I've won. So.
Yeah, that's it. Well, you know. Nothing like trying to pump up the excitement of it all, is there?
Tips in finals are worth double, though.
Oh, they come grand final day, they'll definitely be worth double. It might be worth 8 if we need to sort of just enhance the drama here.
Next tip wins.
Senchi, you're on round 18, final round of Premier Under 19 action for 2026. And we kick it off with DYLAN CENCH sitting in 5th against Parkdale 9th, 9:20 Waverley Oval.
I will just play some nice defense and go with the higher ranked team here.
DYLAN for you. Lockie?
It's a bit cowardly there. I will go Parkdale. I just have to tip against this. So I think we know how this is going to go here.
Sadly, there's no points for bravery when it comes to tipping, unfortunately. Great game, this one. Old Zabs taking on St Bede's Mentone Tigers, 2nd versus 6th. This will be one of our KTV games at Toorak Park. You'll be able to watch this one live and exclusive on KTV. Zabs and the Tigers.
St Bede's not playing for too much here, but I will tip them.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Based on what?
Just feeling.
Just gut. Senchi's gut.
I want to give Lockie a chance. Maybe.
Oh, isn't that sporting of you? Nothing worse than, even worse than arrogance is the pity. He's giving you a pity tip.
Well, we've just seen an example of the Australian cricket team in tipping. Go safe and then you do something remarkably stupid later.
Are you going to take the option, Lockie?
Yeah, I'll take Zabs. It's a low-hanging fruit there.
Caulfield versus St Kevin's, 8th versus 3rd, 2 p.m. East Caulfield Reserve.
St Kevin's.
I'll go Caulfield. They're finishing strong here.
Beaumaris 10th, but very good on the weekend, as we mentioned, against Uni Blues, 7th, 2 p.m. at Moorabbin West.
I actually can't decide in this game. So if Lockie wants to tip first, I'm happy to go against him.
I'll go Uni Blues.
Okay,
I think those injuries will hurt Beaumaris.
Yeah, give me Bowie.
Bowie for Sench. And the final game is another one of our broadcast games. It'll be 3 o'clock from Camberwell, live and free on VAFA TV. It is Old Scotch sitting in 4th against the top of the table Tunners.
Yeah, Scotch will make a statement here.
I'll go Brighton.
Well, it's kind of an all-or-nothing kind of weekend for Lachie. Let's see how it all plays out. Mate, thanks for your time. Looking forward to your wrap of round 18 as we look ahead to finals in Holmesglen Under 19 Premier next week.
No worries, lads. It's always a pleasure.
Footy finals are almost here, and there's no better way to kick them off than at the 2026 William Buck VAFA Finals Luncheon. Join MC Nat Edwards, AFL legends and Brownlow medalists James Hird and Jimmy Bartel, plus Jason Bennett and the VAFA media team for a live For the Love of the Game finals preview. Friday, September 4th at the RACV City Club. Enjoy a premium 2-course lunch, beverage package and an unforgettable afternoon of football stories and finals insights. Book your tickets now at vafa.com.au. Don't miss out on one of the biggest events on the VAFA calendar.
Time now for the segment that everyone's been waiting for. Well, at least Senchi has. Sench Watch. What do you got this week, mate?
We'll start with the undefeated teams. We lost one on the weekend.
Oh, no. Who went down? Hang on. Who was the favourite? We said last week that they couldn't possibly lose. No. I think you said Wattle Park, didn't you? They were the lock to go
Well, they got
away.
through because they didn't play. So.
Okay, so they're still on. That's always a good strategy.
Yeah. The Collegians 102-point win over Old Melburnians.
So they're right. Yep.
DYLAN reserves got through, Fitzroy reserves got through, and that's all of them because Wattle Park didn't play, and then Masala lost.
Masala lost.
So their first final against
the first final, so they've gone undefeated all year.
Thirds Division 5 men's, they finished the year 15-1-0, so the one draw. They lost by 15 points to Ely Park. The damage was done in the first quarter, trailing 38-9. So
wow, this is what we keep saying. That's the thing about finals footy. I mean, the old cliche is the season starts again in September or come finals time, but it's so true, Brayden. It happens every year.
And they really should be bringing the mouth guards to training this week because I reckon they're going to undergo a bit of a mirror reflection. It's just not good enough to get to this. Look, the positive, it happened in the first final. Not
that's exactly right. Not on grand final day, not a cutthroat.
Do we think this sort of thing can happen to collegians?
It can happen to anyone. If it happened to Ormond last year, it can happen to anyone.
Yeah. We keep sort of saying it happens, but we go, but is it really going to happen? But it does happen, and that's just proof of it.
Yeah,
that's so we're down to 4 then.
Yeah, correct. Over to some umpire milestones. So we had Brendan Corcoran umpire his 700th game on the weekend. Field
games.
umpire. So he officiated.
Has there been a field umpire for all 700?
I believe so.
That's incredible. Well done, Brendan.
Yes.
What an unbelievable
So he
performance.
officiated the Oakley St Mary's Div 1 men's. Both teams gave him a guard of honour, which he wanted to recognise. So
yeah, great.
Good on him. Also, Bobby Parkey did his 500th game as a goal umpire. Also got a guard of honour in the Williamstown Alder Ivanhoe Prem B game.
Excellent, Bobby.
And I believe I believe both of them officiated Petchy's under-19s debut.
Yeah, there you go.
Really?
yeah, they were well into their career at that stage. But
I wasn't with you at the start.
And the man that keeps on keeping on in Premier B, he's even doing it without a tooth now.
Yes, the recruit of the year possibly. Matt Harvey had 48 disposals, 31 contested, 14 clearances and 2 goals on the weekend. They did lose, but he just gets it done every week, doesn't he?
Gets it done every week. And he lost the front tooth at training during the week. He had a collision with one of his teammates. The tooth ended up in the temple of his teammate's head, and he had to go off to hospital and have it put back in, but it didn't seem to slow him down.
No, I think he's gone past his teammate Garel for recruit of the year. I think it's safe to say that.
Okay, well, Matty's not convinced.
60 goals is a hard thing to do.
Matty's got to do the team of the year. I'm sure you'll be able to try to look at squeezing both of them into that side. We'll see.
They'll go close.
Let's talk Big Bags and Ton Watch, both thanks to Sharon. And Senchi, we had 4 bags of 10 over the weekend. 4 double-figure hauls, which is a pretty good performance. We're going to start off with Joe Holden from Parkside Seniors in Division 1. He kicked 10. He's got 46 for the year. 10 also to Alex Johnston from Preston Bullant Seniors, also in Division 1. He's got 33 for the year. 10 to Archie McManamy from Collegians Under-19s, who's got 28 goals now from 5 games. So he's having a good run at it, Archie in Collegians Under-19s. And also from Whitefriars Resis in Div 2, Liam Garlick kicked 10 for the week. He's got 17 for the season. Couple of bags of 8. Sam Bonici from Swinburne Thirds down in Div 5. He's got 27. He's kicked 16 in 3 weeks 5, 3, and now 8 goals for Sam Bonici. And also 8 to Ben Murphy from St Bede's Mentone Tigers seniors in Prem C. 8 goals for him. 11 for the year, all in 2 weeks. We should have been asking the coach, what's he been doing the rest of the time? He's played 6 games in the seniors, 6 in the resis, and Ben stepped up and kicked 8 on the weekend. St Bede's, as we mentioned, have got that massive game coming up this weekend. 6 players kicked 7 on the weekend, and 6 players kicked 6.
Just on Joe Holden, he's 10 goals on the weekend. He had 24 touches, 10 goals, 175 ranking points. He's 18 playing Division 1 men's. He's up to 46 goals for the year, so shout out to him.
Yeah, he's one to watch for future years, isn't he? Parkside have got a beauty there. Well done to Joe, 46 goals for Parkside and 10 on the weekend. So let's update you on Ton Watch, thanks to Sharon, after week 19. And a young gun that we had on the show last week, Rogan Kitts, has jumped into the lead. He kicked 5 on the weekend for Oakley. He's now got 79 for the season. He's 2 goals clear now of Hayden Boyce on 77. Hayden held to 2 goals on the weekend in Mazenod's game in Prem C. Luca DeLallo responded. He kicked 6 on the weekend. He's up to 74. So 79 for Kitts, 77 for Boyce. Luca DeLallo now on 74. Pat Carricker from Therry Penola kicked 4, so he's on 72. 1 goal back to James Stewart, who was suspended on 71. Joey Katsubas from Masala Thirds is up to 68. He kicked 4 on the weekend. 67 for Mahi Patel, who kicked 3. 65 for Tom Gorell, who kicked 1. 64 for Darcy Hepburn, who kicked 3 for Scob Under 19 Premier. Michael Van Benton from MHS OB kicked 5 on the weekend. He's up to 63. Charlie McIsaac on 59 with 3 on the weekend. Mitch Brown still on 57 after that extended hamstring absence. And Will Snooks, 3 for him on the weekend as well. He has 57 goals. So our top 5, Rogan Kitts on 79, Hayden Boyce on 77, Luca DeLallo 74, Pat Carricker 72, and James Stewart 71 in the men's competition. In the women's, Geordie Mifsud from Old Scotch sits on a 6-goal lead. She's on 47, kicked 1 on the weekend. Bella Geetsman from Ormond Seniors kicked 2 on the weekend. She's up to 41, so 6 behind Jordan. 4 goals further back on 37 is Mia Cowan from Old Scotch. She kicked 2 on the weekend. Another 3 goals back to Georgia Harris on 34. She kicked 2 on the weekend for Port Melbourne Chargers. And then we have a first-time mention. Sitting on 30 goals after kicking 3 for the weekend is Gypsy Folwell, the only Gypsy in the VAFA this season from Old Haileybury Seniors. She's playing Division 3. Come through Ajax, the Wellers. This is her 2nd year at Haileybury, so Gypsy's got 30 goals for the year, so a great season for her. 29 for Sienna Simons at Parkdale and 29 for Lauren Boyle from Powerhouse. That is Ton Watch and Big Bags for the week. Which brings us to tips time. How'd you go, Matty?
Good question, Jace. Well, I know I didn't get the St Bernard's one right. I decided last week to tip for the story rather than try and tip for the win because the win is that's done. So I don't know how I went.
Well, all up, it was sort of pretty much how it's been most of the year. Brayden 10, you 9.
Yeah.
It's like a boxing fight. It's 10-9 every round. Premier Women's you only got 1 right, but you got 4 out of 5 in Premier B Men's, your specialty.
Okay,
so that was pretty good. Brayden then got 4 out of 5 in William Buck Premier Men's. So 10 for Brayden, 9 for Maddie. So Brayden's now 14 clear, 146 to 132. The upside, a lot more games still to come for you. So you're still a chance.
Yeah, so if we break it down week by week, it doesn't sound like I'm doing too bad.
Don't stop believing.
No, I've still got plenty of chance.
We're going to start with Premier Women's, round 18, the final weekend of the home and away season, and we will kick it off with Caulfield, who are 2nd against West Brunswick, who have dropped from 3rd to 5th, 10:30 at Glen Huntly.
The fields will bounce back.
Yeah, they will.
Caulfield for you both. Senchi?
Caulfield.
Old Scotch versus Old Brighton, 1st versus 3rd, 10:45 Camberwell.
Old Scotch.
Yeah, I'm going to go Old Scotch here as well.
Old Scotch.
Westbourne in 9th against Kew in 4th, 2 p.m. Andrew Park.
Q.
Yeah, Q.
Q.
Q across the board. And Fitzroy versus St Kevin's, 6 versus 8th, 2 p.m. Brunswick Street.
Fitzroy for me, please.
Yeah, the Roys.
Yeah, Fitzroy.
Fitzroy across the board. Old Geelong have the bye. They are in 7th position on the ladder. Premier B Men's. Massive weekend, as we've talked about. Huge weekend with an elimination final on the line. Collegians will begin. Top of the ladder against Ajax, who went from 4th to 6th over the weekend. Must win for the Jackers.
Collegians.
can't see the Jackets getting up here, Collegians, for me.
This will be the result of the season. Ajax to win, results to go their way, and them to slip into finals.
That would be one of the stories of the season.
That would definitely be one of the stories of the season. De La Salle in second spot against Old Geelong in 8th. Danger game for De La Salle.
De La Salle to take care of business.
Yeah, not a lot for De La Salle to play with here. They've pretty much got the double chance, but I think they'll tune themselves up quite nicely and get a win here.
Yeah, De La for me.
Old Carey 7th against Old Ivanhoe, sitting on the bottom of the ladder.
Old Carey for me.
Panthers' form's been good last month. Yeah, I'll tip them again.
I reckon Old Ivanhoe can get this one.
And OM's in 3rd spot. Massive game for them against Willie CYMS, who are hoping for a miracle, but if not, to at least finish their season in style.
OM seem to live up to the pressure when they really need to, so I'm going to back them to play finals footy.
I'm gonna back the CYs here. Contazoglu's men are going to spoil the party.
Wow.
If I tip OMs here, that means Ajax can't make it if they win, right? Because one of both.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll be tipping against OMs.
Just barracking for the story, essentially.
Yeah.
And the final game, this is the one, the elimination final game we talked about earlier in the show. What a game it's going to be. Beaumaris sitting in 5th on the outside looking in. Old Camberwell 4th. Bowie win. They take their spot. Who wins? Who plays finals footy?
The Sharks have just got a bit of scoring punch all of a sudden the last sort of month. We discussed before, they're averaging about 28 scoring shots, I think, over the last 3 weeks, and I reckon that's just going to get them across the line.
But on the Sharks all season, I'm not about to jump off now.
Yeah, the Sharks for me.
Sharks across the board to play finals footy, which would be a wonderful performance after they won the flag last year in Premier C. To then go up and play finals in Premier B, it would be a great achievement. Winnibuck Premier Men's final round here as well. As we know, the top 4 are settled. It's all about the relegation race at the bottom of the table. And one of the critical games in all of this, in fact, the critical game really, because if it doesn't go the way of Old Haileybury, nothing else matters. The Bloods will be going down. It's Uni Blacks against Old Haileybury. This is our SEN game this week. You'll hear it live and free on the SEN app and vafa.com.au from 1:45 p.m. Blacks and Haileybury. Can the Bloods give themselves a chance of surviving in Premier Men's in 2027?
They're a chance, but the Blacks are playing such good footy to end the season. I think they're going to be too strong.
Well, we said earlier the Blacks have been the best of the rest in 2026, and at home they'll be tough to beat.
Old Haileybury.
Old Haileybury for Cench. St Bernard's and Trinity. So if Old Haileybury win, this is a must-win game for Trinity. They have to win this game or lose by 5% less, as we talked about in Caulfield. But effectively, the games are going to be going on at the same time. So Trinity win and they're in. That's the simplest equation for them. Win this game against St Bernard's at the Snake Pit. If there's ever going to be a danger game in the final round, it's that one. St Bernard's, Old Trinity. You can see this one live and exclusive on KTV Community TV from 1:55 on Saturday. Who wins?
Snow Dogs.
St Bernard's.
Yeah, the Snow Dogs.
Wow. So that would mean for you guys, Haileybury loses, St Bernard's wins.
It's going to be a very nervous few minutes for the teams in the post-match checking their phones.
Old Zabs versus Old Scotch. This one, 1:55 live on VAFA TV and on Community TV. Zabs and Scotch. Will Zabs go rolling into September in winning form, or will Scotch just throw one last curveball into their season 2026?
Zabs are going to win this and claim the minor premiership on the way.
Okay. So you reckon they're going to win big, or do you think?
I think they might win big.
Yeah, they'll have to, because if you've got the Blues beating Haileybury, so it's going to have to be a big enough win to close the percentage gap at the top of the table. Maddie?
Yeah, I'm going to go Zabs as well. I don't think they're going to have it all their own way in this one, but I'm going to tip Old Zabs.
Yeah, Zabs for me.
Zabs across the board. St Kevin's and Uni Blues at TH King.
I'm going to go Scob with the players coming back.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be a big win then in that case.
Yeah.
If St Kevin's win
it all,
and the Zabs just have to win by a point, and they'll finish minor premiers in that case. So St Kevin's for you?
Yeah, this is big for St Kevin's. They've got to prove that they can actually mix it with those in the top 4. They're 0-4 against, or 1-4 rather, against the other top 4 teams this season. So this is a big game for them, and I'm back them to win.
Will St Kevin's rest a few like they did last year?
Well, they're getting blokes back. Three-quarters of their team, I think they'll do the opposite. Three-quarters of their team are on their way back from injury and probably need the extra run, especially given they'll have a bye the next week. Like, they had 6 come back on the weekend. I think they had 7 come back the previous week. They've got another 3 or 4 to come back this week. So all those guys, what they desperately need is actually extra footy, not less.
It would be interesting to see if Anthony Lynch will go with it again, though. It'll be interesting to see the team they run out with, whether he goes back to that.
Surely you don't hand Uni Blues a team that you're potentially playing in a couple of weeks in a final. You don't give them that gift, do you?
You'd be tempted to give Billy Coates the week off.
Or do you keep your cards close to your chest and hold a few secrets back?
Well, we'll find out. St Kevin's and Uni Blues. St Kevin's for you both.
Uni Blues.
Uni Blues for Senchi. And the final game, Caulfield versus Old Brighton at Glen Huntly Park.
Old Brighton.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a nervous way for Caulfield as well. I think Old Brighton will win this.
Yeah, the Tanners.
Old Brighton across the board. So
did we tip exactly the same?
Pretty much. So I
I
don't know what you're
yeah,
doing.
you have.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're doing.
I can't look. You can't make any more ground on me. And damage control is the
right, minimisation. It's that we're going to lose by 5 goals. We just don't want to lose by 15.
Exactly. It's all about percentage.
Yeah, that's right. So Uni Blacks versus Old Haleroo. That's our SEN game this week. St Bernard's and Old Trinity live and exclusive on KTV. Also on KTV, Old Zabs versus St Bede's Mentone, the under-19 Premier Holmesglen game. On KTV and VAFA TV, we've got Old Zabs versus Old Scotch at Toorak Park, 1:55 on Saturday. And also another under-19 Premier Holmesglen game, Old Scotch and Old Brighton from 2:55 Saturday from Camberwell, live and free on VAFA TV. Speaking of final schedules, let's run you through the other games that are happening on the weekend, the other senior games, as well as the Holmesglen Under-19 Premier Women's Competition. So they've got their preliminary final coming up this weekend for the women's. As we know, that's a 4-team competition, and it will be Williamstown CYMS taking on Westbourne at Coburg City Oval. This is Sunday, a 9:40 game. Sunday at 9:40 at Coburg City Oval. Holmesglen Under-19 Premier Women's Preliminary Final, Williamstown CYMS against Westbourne. Also coming up in that game, let's talk the Thirds Division 4 game, their preliminary final, Saturday 9:20, Hampton Rovers versus Marcellin down at the Kennedy Centre at Dingley. That's Thirds Division 4. For the men, let's start with Thirds Division 1. I guess that would make more sense. In fact, there's a triple header at Trevor Barker Beach Oval. Let's just run through them one at a time. This is Sunday from 9:20. It's Thirds Division 3. These are all going to be preliminary finals at Trevor Barker for Thirds matches. So Thirds Division 3 will kick it off at 9:20 at Trevor Barker. Old Brighton Thirds against Ajax. And then at 11:40 straight after that at Trevor Barker, it's the Thirds Division 2 men's, University Blacks versus Old Melburnians. And then at 2 o'clock, straight after that, the third of the games at Trevor Barker Beach Oval on Sunday, 2 p.m, Thirds Division 1 preliminary final, Old Brighton taking on Uni Blacks. The Thirds Division 5 game will be at Jack Barker. It's a preliminary final between Masala and Swinburne University. The 9:20 start on Sunday morning. Best of luck to Masala and Swinburne. Thirds Division 6, their preliminary final will be at Marcellin on Sunday, 9:20 a.m. rather, the early start, not the late one. The Thirds blokes are just going, you're beauty, 9:20, we can get out on the gas Saturday night. Well, probably not unless you're prepared to stay up, which is always an option. 9:20 Sunday morning at Marcellin, Marcellin College 2, Canterbury taking on Whitefriars in Thirds Division 6. And then Thirds Division 7, also the early start, 9:20 on Sunday morning. Preliminary final at Marcellin College, MHS OB taking on Therry Panola. So a packed weekend of finals. It only gets bigger, as we said. It's 6 weeks of rolling finals. And I think it might be next week. It is next week, Senchi, isn't it? We've got 40 finals in one weekend up and down the competitions. 40 finals in one weekend, which is the most I think we've ever had.
Just glad there's a buy in Premier Men's. So
exactly right. Yeah. We can focus on all these other games because that weekend there's 40. So the socials will be absolutely rocking. There's so much to cover. We'll have it all here for you to wrap it all up on For the Love of the Game coming up over the coming weeks. Gentlemen, that is pretty much it for what's been an action-packed show. What are you looking forward to this weekend?
The double KTV under-19 games.
Yeah, it's a couple of absolute rippers there to look forward to. Brayden?
Divisional finals. I've got a bit of a soft spot for the divisional clubs. I don't know what it is about them, but there's great stories. I think there's going to be twists and turns all through the final series.
Yeah, we've already seen it now with Masala going undefeated and losing their first final. Matty, what are you looking forward to?
The Beaumaris Old Camberwell play-in final in Prem B. It's just going to be on for young and old.
And then you've got the Mazenod, St Bede's, Mentone Tigers in Prem C as well. So much to look forward to. We'll be back next week to break it all down with all the news, views, analysis and interviews. This has been For the Love of the Game. Enjoy another great weekend of footy. We'll catch you next week.